Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and as promised, I want to go ahead and talk about, mining in Star Citizen. And I think when we think of mining, a lot of people think of different experiences that they've had, whether that actually be in, RPGs, or whether that actually be in Elite Dangerous. And I hear a lot of people comparing it to EVE mining. And frankly, I've never played EVE, so I don't really know, how to compare it to something like that. But we got a lot of good information from Tony Zurovec, who's the Persistent Universe Director with CIG. So I want to go ahead and just get into mining, and let's go ahead and start with some of the downsides of mining. And we're going to start out with some of the dangers. Now, there's a couple inherent dangers that come along with it, and one of the first ones is going to be with pirates. Now, piracy could be a huge issue, it could be a small issue, we don't really know, and I think it's going to depend on the sector that you're actually in. But anytime you're in a ship that's carrying valuable cargo, you're going to be at risk from being pirated. Now, whether that's a whole sea carrying a lot of, conventional cargo, or whether that be an Orion carrying, a boatload of valuable ore, people are going to want to get their hands on that. So having some protection of some sort is probably going to be important. Other dangers that you need to worry about when you're mining, the better resources are going to be located deep inside asteroid belts. So you're going to have to watch out for things like collisions. Asteroids aren't just static inanimate objects. They're going to be moving around, and as you're drilling into things, pieces are going to break off and start floating around. And finally, within those asteroids, there's compressed pockets of gas that have explosive energy. And if they do decide to explode from different vibrations through the mining process, it could fling big chunks of asteroid towards your ship. That's obviously a concern. So let's kind of get into, this mining process a little bit. And there's a couple different job types that you can actually do. Now, before we get into those, job types, I think it's worth noting that they're putting a lot of effort into making mining, a valuable career. You can go into it, you can make money. It's going to be exciting and in depth. It's not going to be something that's as simple as point click and you're done with it. There's a lot of different job types that you can actually take on. One thing that I thought was interesting in here was that they mentioned that NPC skill is going to be based on their quote-unquote monthly cost. And to me, that's alluding to the fact that we can have longer-term contracts, at least as an option for NPCs, versus just hiring somebody like, hey, get in the back of my pickup truck, we're going to go, move my apartment, something like that. It's not going to, it sounds like there's going to be longer-term things that you can actually do. Now, when we start talking about getting started in mining, your kind of hub of information is going to be with the Trade and Development Division, otherwise it's going to be abbreviated as the TDD. And basically what this is going to be is it's going to serve as a marketplace for commodities. It's going to tell you what's in demand. It's going to kind of tell you the supply and demand things, the going rate for different minerals and ores and commodities in that particular sector. Now there's going to be TDDs spread out throughout the galaxy, and you're not going to get the same prices at certain ones versus others. There may be a high demand here, low demand there, and that's what's going to make a living, breathing economy actually happen. But when you want to get started with mining, you want to know what's in demand, so you know what to look for. You don't want to go out there and find a bunch of mine for product X, and then you find out that product X is in high supply, so you're not going to get much money for that. So the concept images that we have on the TDD show almost like a stock market-like board to kind of follow those prices and demand, which is going to help you actually choose what to mine for. Now, you can choose between being a freelance miner or being an agent in the employ of somebody that actually is hiring you to go out and do that. So freelancing is basically you choose where you mine, you choose what you want to mine, but then you have to get them to a port that has the best prices available to actually turn a profit off of that. Now, if you choose to be an agent, you're employed by a company that's sending you out to do their mining. Now, freelancing is going to offer the highest profit margins, but it comes with the most risk too. You run the risk of the market changing while you're out and about, so you may end up seeing limited return on your investment. Maybe you leave and product X is rated at 100 UEC per ton. You get back and you find out, oh crap, that's only worth 60 per ton, so you're not getting as much back as you thought you would. So that's going to mean less profit, and that's going to be even more exasperated by things like ship damages and crew costs and fuel costs. And let's say something explodes and you have to repair that. Ship repairs are going to be, kind of pricey and costly and probably time-consuming too. When you work as an agent, though, it's a lot more secure overall, but it does come with less profit. You're getting a fixed price on what you bring back, so you're kind of running that risk. It's risky in the fact that If you, like I said, let's use that same example. You go to mine product X at 100 per ton, but you get back and find out it's 150 per ton. Well, guess what? You're only going to make that 100 because that's what they were going to pay you to do. However, it is more secure. If we go back to that same situation before, you bring it back, you're going to earn whatever you signed on the dotted line for. So you're not running the risk of coming home with less money. You just run the risk of not making as much as you possibly could. It's a lot safer overall, but it's not great in the fact that you're kind of limited on your, potential earnings. You also run the risk, though, of hurting your reputation. If you can't meet your quota on what you promised to fulfill, you're not actually going to be able to go back and earn a good reputation. It may be harder to find, those types of mining jobs in the future because you've kind of dropped the ball in this job that you got, and there is a reputation system in game. So those are going to be kind of your two options as far as setting out and getting started in mining. Now, if you want to go find your, mining location, you obviously got to figure out where you're going to get these materials. It's not going to just show up out of nowhere. And much like in Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen is going to have mining locations within asteroid belts and asteroid fields. And just like Elite Dangerous, there's also varying levels of quality and quantity from belt to belt. So you need to choose which ones you're going to work on, kind of based on your ship's capabilities and how much you want to roll the dice and how much you're actually going to get out of it. And because there's information out there that's considered public knowledge, you're going to know the locations of major asteroid fields that are in the systems that you're in. The problem here, though, is that since everybody knows their locations, they're likely going to be very picked over. You're not going to be able to find as much of the good stuff. Now, occasionally, new fields are going to be found, and that's going to be made public knowledge. And I assume these are just going to be in-game events. Something new was discovered and it was broadcast across the system. And what that could potentially result in is almost like a gold rush. Everybody sees there's value, there's profit to be made, and they've rushed towards it. And you can make a good profit, but you have to react quickly to be a part of that because it will get picked over. I kind of envision when that happens, we almost see like an economic boom, but that also comes with maybe like an increase in pirates because they know there's a lot of profit and a lot of goods that are being exchanged in that area. I think it's going to be a very dynamic situation. Now, if you choose to go out and find your own locations, find new locations, you don't want to rely on this public information, you have a couple options. The first one is to go through an information broker. And their reputation is going to dictate how reliable that information actually is. For example, they may falsify the quality of the asteroid field information they're selling you to get more money out of you, but you may get there and find out that it's really just crap. So people with high reputations are going to be more reliable. You may end up saving money on low rep guys, but you may end up getting screwed in the long run. Herald owners, now this is just speculation, but you might actually be able to steal this information, people, thus helping your organization or just going out and turning a profit on your own. You find these valuable locations, you steal it from other people who've actually done the hard work, you then go sell that information to become an information broker of your own. Now, explorers can also serve as kind of like privateers in a way by using their probes and scanners and, trying to find these new locations on their own. You can then choose to operate as an information broker on your own. You've found that information, so you can sell it. Or maybe you're going to share that with your organization or with your convoy that you're just traveling with if you've got some friends that are just kind of, hanging out. I kind of envision those that are in organizations that this is going to be kind of the most teamwork-oriented way to do it. You get a diverse fleet you set out. Mining is going to be your goal that you have in mind. And then you're able to kind of maximize your profits because you're not then trying to buy that information from a third party. I think the big benefit to finding this information is that it's yours alone and you can do with it as you so choose. You then get the flexibility to use it however you want. Finally, you can also choose to automatically share discoveries with other members in your organization, and that's really cool. That means that everybody in your org is going to immediately know where these good locations are, but it's not going to be public knowledge. So your organization can benefit from you going out and actually finding it. I think this is a really good reason to have explorers in your fleet, especially if they're kind of teamwork-minded people that are willing to share that information and not be selfish with that profit. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Think about number one all the time. But, it's a good role for the explorers outside of just, oh, look, here's a new planet. And I think this is also a big benefit for having larger organizations. I think a lot of times we think about the instant system and we're like, okay, yeah, you may have 4,000 members in your organization, but, we may only get 100 ships in the instance. So how much of a benefit is a 4,000 person organization compared to a 100 person organization? Probably not much, but in this instance, I think it is a huge difference. If you've got a lot of people out there exploring, there's going to be a lot of information immediately shared between them that's going to be a benefit for the bigger groups. So let's talk a little bit about the jobs, and then the examples that they gave us, we're using like the Orion as an example. There's going to be a lot of ships out there that can do mining, but the Orion is something that just specializes in that. So with that in mind, it has all the parts that kind of can cover all these different jobs that you can actually do. So let's start out with the pilot, and obviously their responsibility is going to be navigation of the ship. It's responsible for getting the ship to the location in one piece, and it's going to be responsible for positioning the ship around an asteroid so you can actually then, do the mining process. Now, a good pilot can help with the overall success rate. For example, a good pilot will then move the ship around the asteroid to help maximize efficiency. If you're relying on the laser beam to be scalpel precise and move around in small movements, you can almost just strafe the ship along the asteroid to kind of help in coordination with your beam operator to have the best long-term results. The pilot also needs to have quick reactions. With quick communication with like a beam operator, they can help keep the ship alive a little bit better. It's going to be responsible if there's an explosion, getting it out of the way, or keeping an eye on the surroundings. Asteroids fields are going to be dangerous places to be. The second job is going to be the scan operator, and this person is going to be responsible for finding the contents that are within the asteroid. Basically, they're going to be shooting an unguided rocket into the asteroid, and then it has to kind of navigate it through, entrances, through different fissures and entrance points. It's a very skill-based task, meaning that you get better readings, better efficiency, and better detailed scans. It's not you just click a button, you scan the asteroid, and you know what's there. You have to guide the rocket. You then have to guide the entrance of the device. Ultimately, though, the operator being able to successfully find the best insertion point and then land the rocket there is going to dictate the overall success rate of the scan, and probably is going to be really important for the overall success of the mining operation in general. Now, the beam operator is, kind of like the guy that's controlling the drills on those armadillos in Armageddon. Normally, this person's going to be second command of the expedition, and it's actually going to be the person that's mining the lasers to break up the asteroid. They're controlling the power output that's being used. And that's something that's going to be really important because it's based on the structure of the asteroid and the contents, and you need to use more or less power, oftentimes even within the same asteroid. You use too much power, things might explode. You use too little power, you may actually move really slow or get nowhere in the mining, and that's not going to be profitable. They also need to monitor things like the exothermic reaction detector to prevent too much energy leading to seismic activities. They also need to monitor this laser seismometer, which is going to help keep an eye on every tremor and potential issue that may come from it. You get too much seismic activity and you may end up having an explosion on your hands, which then sends debris towards the ship, and that could be catastrophic. The beam operator is also going to be responsible for watching the analytical materials processor to see what lies underneath the surface. I almost think of this like a hands-on scan operator. It's going to show what type of ore is there, how much is left, what the percentages are, and you need to know what you're mining for. And if you if you need to move on to another location or stay put, some of that decision making is going to be the responsibility of this beam operator. You get somebody that's being lazy and just mining, you're not going to maximize your profits. Another job on the ship is going to be the cargo operator, and this is a person that has a seat on the bridge, and basically they're watching a device similar to that analytical materials processor. They're going to scan each little piece and it kind of gets broken off and is floating there and decide if there's enough value in that piece to decide to bring it into that big grinder at the front of the ship. And then after it goes through that grinder, it then gets sent back to the refinery that's within the belly of the Orion. Now, this person's going to be using a targeting array, and they're going to also be controlling things like attractors and repulsor beams, which I assume are going to be like tractor beams. And that's either going to decide to bring that piece into the ship or to send it off floating into space. Now, there's a benefit to a good cargo operator because if you get somebody that's just bringing in everything that's floating around, you're not going to be maximizing your profits or it's just going to be slowing things down. You get somebody that's picking the most valuable pieces or knows what they're actually looking for, and you're going to have somebody that's actually able to help, with your efficiency of the operation as a whole. And then the final job that was talked about was the refinery operator, and this job is only on ships specialized in mining that are able to kind of house their own refinery like the Orion does. And the purpose of the refinery is to turn raw ore into more purified forms. Basically, you're going to eject the crap that you don't want into space, so whatever's in your storage is only the good stuff. So if you're in a low-quality asteroid field, you almost need to have a refinery on board. If you're in a high-quality system where you can break off chunks of the good stuff every time, you may get by with just the raw ore and may not need a refinery. and I kind of think of other shifts. How are they going to actually do in mining? So I think of maybe like a freelancer. They may need to look a little bit more carefully. They could probably get by in a high quality area, but without that refinery, something like a freelancer that's just bringing in big chunks may not work out as well as actually having a dedicated miner. So this operator sort of, is kind of responsible for sorting the ore, and sending it to the right place. If you send a certain type of ore to the wrong processing unit, you may end up resulting in damage to that processing unit, which may stall the operation altogether. I don't envision this being the most exciting job on this mining ship, but I think it's probably a really important job to make sure that it's running well. So you've got your cargo, you're all loaded up, you're ready to head back, and the last thing you need to do is actually sell that cargo. Well, if you're operating as an agent, you need to return to the person that offered you the job to sell it back to them. You then get the money and the reputation gained for completing your task. You did a good thing, you get a bump in your rep, plus the paycheck you were promised. Now, they're only going to buy what they ask for, though. So let's say you get, 60% of your cargo is the requirement. That you got through the agent, well then, the other 40% may be stuff that you can sell on your own. So maybe you then want to head off to the TDD to sell everything else to make a little side money, from that mining endeavor. If you're freelance mining, though, you need to choose the best place to sell. Different TDD locations are going to have different demand. This economy is dynamic, and it's going to follow supply and demand rules. So it's best to check several different locations to get the best price, but if you have org mates or friends to spread that around, they may be able to relay that information back to you, meaning you're not traveling from spaceport to spaceport. Info brokers may also be able to share that information with you. Chances are, and this may be just kind of my own speculation though, that the further you travel from the system where you actually got that ore, the more profit you might get as a result. We're going to have to see if that actually plays out, because I think everything's going to be a little bit, strange. There's going to be some materials that are widespread, some stuff that's a little bit more rare. But either way, you probably want to find that sweet spot of return on your investment. If you travel too far to sell your stuff, not only are you wasting your time where you could be earning more money, but you're spending more money on your fuel, which is eating into your profits. And then the last option that they talked about was you can actually just hold on to your ore. You can put it in storage for a month and kind of play the market. If the price increases, then you sell your ore at that point. It's kind of like playing the housing market. Buy low, sell high. I think that's going to be a general good rule of thumb, and it's kind of a good plan C. If you get there and you're not happy or you don't want to travel, halfway across the star system, you may be able to just kind of sit on that until you get a good return on it. So we got a lot of good information through, this article, and I'm going to put a link up on the in the description if you guys want to actually go check it out and read it in a little bit more detail. I think this was really enlightening, though, because it took something that could be potentially a little bit boring like mining and turned it into something really exciting and skill-based. So that's pretty much it. If you have questions on any of this, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for a lot more content. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.